Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. Welcome to Movie Reviews, where we review movies. Today we're going to be talking about Booksmart, which is the directorial debut of Olivia Wilde. Movie got wild buzz at Sundance this year. 85 on Metacritic, a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes for a coming-of-age comedy. People are calling it this generation's Superbad. There's so much hype around this movie.
It's drawing comparisons to Lady Bird and 8th Grade.
I felt that this movie was pretty funny. It didn't knock my socks off with the humor. I was having a good time. I was chuckling. And the last third had a lot of heartfelt moments that really got to me and surprised me. And the first two thirds, I was like, I don't really understand what people are talking about, how this movie's getting like rave reviews. And the last third, I was like, okay, so this movie has such touching moments that it's hard not to like ultimately. The lead two performances, Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Denver, are really excellent in the movie. Beanie Feldstein being the comedic standout. Caitlin Denver has shown herself to be a great dramatic actress in other movies like Short Term 12 and is also that here.
I have to say the plot didn't really feel like that driving to me. I didn't feel like the characters' motivations were that strong for that reason, though. I think in the end of the movie, their lives don't even change that much. I kind of found this to be a problem personally. I get why some people might say, that's the nuance of it. It's more realistic. But I was never totally compelled by the movie or by the motivations. You could tell I'm a little so-so on it. I want to like it. I don't want to tell you to not see it because it didn't do that well in the box office and a lot of people seem to love it, so you should probably just see it if you're thinking about seeing it. Overall, it had a lot of unrealistic elements that just didn't make sense when you think about them, and they happened so frequently that I was jarred half the movie. Some of it's for comedic purposes, they're hamming up the comedy. So, things are a little over the top, which I can accept to some point, but this movie felt like it was, doing that in, a disorienting way.
I think what was partly disorienting about it is that there's something very authentic about the relationship between the main two characters. I know a lot of people who are overachievers just like them. I know a lot of people like that.
I could definitely connect
and
with
I
them.
could connect with them easily. I connect with their relationship. I connect with their desires. Scenes towards the end were really powerful for that reason. But what's jarring is that you have that authenticity, and then a lot of what surrounds this movie or some of the situations that they're kind of put into are mismatched.
All the supporting characters that didn't feel real, they were people that I didn't understand how they could exist in this world.
You have characters like Gigi, who was not funny at all to me and to him. There were a lot of moments, I thought this was really funny, but there were a couple of moments that fell flat. This character was one of them. It wasn't a funny recurring joke to me that she kept popping up. She was a non-person. She's just a wacky thing that the movie keeps inserting to try to make jokes. There's a lot of supporting characters in this movie who are very goofy and stereotypical, and some of them I don't mind, like that gay duo who loves musical theater. I didn't mind them. I thought they were funny. It almost felt like it didn't trust its main two to do all the jokes, and I had to kind of throw in all these clowns around them.
There was no intention behind a lot of them, and when there was an intention behind them, like the kid who threw the yacht party, it was so forced. They did try to force some moments on these supporting characters that would fit into the theme of the movie where they may seem this way, they may behave this way, act this way, but actually they're really insecure. And that would have been nice, but these moments with these supporting characters felt really forced. And other ones, it felt like they were going to go for that and they just didn't even try, and they just let these characters just remain on this bizarre level that you couldn't relate with them at all. There's a scene when they need to find the address of a student's aunt, and they go to the library. That's all I need to say. That why it doesn't make any sense.
Well, it also doesn't make sense because them going to the library didn't do anything because they found the answer on their phone. It was just what was that for?
In defense of it, maybe there's some comedy to that. The fact that they would go to the library because they're nerds, but at the same time, it just makes them come across as completely unsavvy.
I obviously see that the point is that they're nerds, but it felt like it was forcing itself to make that joke because it didn't fit into the plot.
It's not a nerdy thing to do. It's like an actually stupid thing to do.
The rich kid who had the yacht party, just him throwing an empty party and thinking that it was like normal. Like it was like that's not. You're not a person.
I wouldn't normally care in a comedy movie if there were elements to it that didn't feel like they were real or made sense, but this movie had so much of that.
A lot of the decisions in this movie felt like the writers were making them for the characters, not the characters making them for themselves. The funniest parts of the movie are definitely the ones that feel more natural. I also want to mention that the scene where they take drugs and become dolls didn't make sense, wasn't funny. Nobody in my audience was laughing.
I thought that was a little funny.
I cringed very hard at it, and I wanted them to delete the scene.
I cringed at a lot of the scenes in the movie, and that was one of them, but I did think it was kind of funny.
It doesn't make sense that they would like have this simultaneous, like, they think that they're dolls at all. And if it's just a way to get commentary in there about body standards, and that's not really like a good excuse to me. For the most part, like, I wouldn't be too critical of this movie because I definitely enjoyed it, and I thought that there were a lot of funny moments, and like I said, the end has some really excellent moments that I was surprised by. A lot in the third act. It really dedicates itself to the drama of the story.
There are a couple scenes that are like beautifully shot, and some sequences that were like wonderfully done that I think showed some potential for this movie that I didn't see in other parts. And I think that it counts like for the ending. I think it counts towards like climactic scenes. Some of them were really well done. There's just so many stereotypical characters that like don't go anywhere, and there's so much humor that feels like unnatural. An interesting and nuanced relationship between these two leads. You have a really good lead performance from B.D. Feldstein. You have supporting characters that feel like wasted or don't make sense. You have some beautiful direction. Other parts felt mediocre. This is like, it's a mixed bag for me. I wanted it to be more like Lady Bird. I wanted it to be more like 8th Grade. I even liked The Edge of 17, which was more of a generic
And what about Mean Girls?
I liked Love, Simon. Those movies are all very similar to this movie. I like this movie less. A lot of people seem to really love this movie. I'm not getting behind it in the same way. I just didn't get behind it in the same way. The whole high school experience was unrealistic, and that bothered me too, because while this movie, in some ways, tries to portray elements like of sex and of expectations you can have for like meeting people that you have a crush on, it tries to portray those in a really honest way. And then the whole high school experience is this weird, like, maximalist fantasy where everything's like on all the time. There's like parties going on in the hallway, people going like this to each other in slow motion on skateboards at lunchtime.
Yeah, like there's
so
people
much
throwing
of
a theater party at like someone's mansion.
Yeah,
a yacht
exactly.
party. I thought it was really cool that like this movie had a different perspective. I thought that it treated the gay character well. It did a good job being very honest about like her sexual experiences and not shying away from some of the more explicit content. I really appreciated that. And so I think that some people might really appreciate that this movie feels like it's about them in ways that other movies haven't been.
Is it an important movie? For those reasons, yes. And that's why I wish I liked it more, because I'm behind all that. I can get down with that stuff. I can be progressive too.
I was thinking more about the things that I didn't like after the movie, because there was enough during the movie that like I thought was funny, that I enjoyed, and then it really won me over a lot with the third act of the movie. I would say that the movie was a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm going to say a 6. If you were an empty supporting character in a movie, what would that character be like?